Minnesota Vikings get the win over the Seattle Seahawks. Another impressive win by the Vikings, who moved to 13-2. Seahawks fall to 8-7. So the Seahawks game behind the Rams in the NFC West, and the Vikings, one of two teams at 13-2 in the NFC. And as we mentioned earlier, if they win next week, set up for the NFC North and potentially number one seed on the line in Week 18 against the Lions.
Yeah, impressive win, I think, for Minnesota, given particularly what Seattle was able to bring to the table. Same thing, 12-play touchdown drive. Like, the Vikings continue to absolutely cook on script, that 15-play opening script that teams talk about. The Vikings is as good as anybody in the NFL. I mean, they dominated early. It looked like they were going to have real success. Like, the Seahawks were struggling in that first half, and then before halftime, there was a really important sequence. Seattle got a touchdown to DK Metcalf over Gilmore. Those two guys were really going at each other throughout the game.
Battle.
Not just like a Marshawn Lattimore versus A.J. Brown physical battle, but they were like jawing at each other for the entirety of the game. It was fascinating. And then, the Vikings made some plays, but late in the game, Seattle's defense was doing a really impressive job at getting pressure on Darnold, and the face mask that wasn't the last time, they actually gave it to them this time, extended the Vikings drive, touchdown over the top, and boom.
So just working backwards, that game-winning touchdown, Sam Darnold to Justin Jefferson, the number of times this year where I come away more impressed by Sam Darnold, it's week after week. And I think if you look at the totality of the season, Darnold starting hot, everybody points back, us included, to that Jaguars game where he almost lost to this team that's, slated to pick number 3 overall. And it was because of him. And since that point, he has been outstanding. Look, there's some bad plays in there, as like anyone else, right? His ability to bounce back, make plays in the fourth quarter, and that Jefferson play, stepping through the pocket, hitting the hole, kind of back shouldering it away from the safety, just unbelievable stuff by Sam Darnold. Other little plays too. I think your guy Mark Sanchez highlighted a little. He either changed the route or the concept to Justin Jefferson to the deep out. Sam Darnold is throwing pristine deep out cuts. You're talking that 10 to 15 yard range this year, intermediate out, we'll say, and he puts it right on Jefferson after changing the play. It's like, I saw our friend Matt Collar talking about this, the idea of, Kevin O'Connell's the QB whisperer, and he's, and so like a lot of that stuff is true, right? Like, we talk a lot about quarterbacks being associated with a coach, and it's the scheme that gets the best out of that guy. I don't think it's just the scheme, it's the totality of these things, right? If you're going to give Kevin O'Connell credit or give him the proper credit for Sam Darnold's career year here, it's not just he called good plays. It's that he got Sam Darnold to play with this level of confidence, to play with this level of aggressiveness at the right times, to have the ability to bounce back from negative plays, to come back with positive plays as consistently as he has. When we talk about scheme fit and all these things, it's not just the plays, the mentality. So whoever gets credit for that, Sam Darnold ultimately gets credit for it, but O'Connell, the system, the playmakers, there's so much to like about Minnesota's offense with Sam Darnold running the show and continuing to make big plays in the clutch.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about that before, right? Like, one of the things that Kevin O'Connell did was rewire Kirk Cousins, right? He changed the way Kirk Cousins plays the game, and even if it was only temporary, it's an effect that massively goes beyond just play calling, as you said, or scheme, diagnosing and drawing up and all that kind of stuff. Like, he is able to change the behavior of quarterbacks in addition to just making them play better. And that's why, I tweeted this out, like, Darnold for his career with the Jets had 13 wins. Darnold has 13 wins already with 2 games left to play this regular season for the Vikings. It's a different version of Sam Darnold, and maybe it only works as long as he's attached to Kevin O'Connell, but the point is it works. And again, like, for the majority of the game, I think the Vikings were okay on offense, but late in this game, in the fourth quarter, that Mike Macdonald defense was really dialing up pressure. Darnold had 8 dropbacks in the fourth quarter, and 5 of them he was under pressure in. So they got a ton of pressure late in the game. The stunts were working. They were causing problems. Okay, they caught a break with the face mask, extending the drive when it could have ended it if the face mask wasn't there. But Darnold was under duress in the most critical portion of that game and then stood up to deliver that touchdown pass deep down the field to Jefferson.
Isn't that what the evidence seems to be showing here? We always talked about Shanahan and his, it's his system and it's his scheme. And he's, look at all these open throws that Jimmy Garoppolo and Brock Purdy have. And you always dialed up, or you always thought of Shanahan as the schematic genius that's giving the quarterbacks the open throws to these really good playmakers. I think we're 2 quarterbacks into Kevin O'Connell here in Minnesota. And you could, honestly, he was there with Stafford on the Super Bowl run. You could say, look, they also maximized Stafford's ability. That I used to joke, how do you bottle up great aggressive Stafford? And they did with the Rams. Isn't that where the evidence is pointing towards with Kevin O'Connell right now? It's the X's and O's. Like, I'm not taking away from the play calling, but certainly it's recalibrating, maximizing the potential of these quarterbacks. I just love it. And again, so impressed by Darnold. And then the way Minnesota's passing attack works, it was a Justin Jefferson game where he goes 10 catches for 144. It had been Jordan Addison in recent weeks. It had been TJ Hawkinson a few weeks ago. Just so many weapons to have to account for Minnesota.
Yeah, I was having this discussion on Twitter over the weekend with Golick Jr. and I think Danny Helfitz. Is that his name? Helfitz? I've never remember how to pronounce that guy's second name, from The Ringer. That record that the Chiefs have now of consecutive one-score victories overtakes a mark set by the 07 Patriots, I think, like the dynastic Patriots team. So, and you add that to the idea that the Chiefs do seem to be able to turn it on when they want. Like this is a team that's learned how to win now. They've back-to-back Super Bowls, working on a third. They're not fazed by a random game in mid-December, when things are on the line. It does seem to indicate that there is a skill to winning these one-score games, which previously I think was just dismissed as variance and noise. And, sometimes you win those games, sometimes you don't. And when Kevin O'Connell and the Vikings won 11 of them in a season or whatever a couple of years ago, we were like, well, that's a number that's going to regress next year. Like, yeah, they overachieved this year, but, next year they'll come back down to earth. And they did a little bit, but this is now the second season where Kevin O'Connell is putting together this run of consecutive, consistent, one-score victories. Late in the game, when things are tight, it's uncomfortable, but generally speaking, the Vikings seem to come out on the right side of these games, and even the ones where they're not, it's like there was a blown face mask call in their own end zone, right, that cost them that game. Like maybe they would have won that one as well. So maybe we are starting to look at this and saying Kevin O'Connell is one of those coaches that has an ability to consistently manufacture victories in tight one-score close games. And for a team like Minnesota vying for the 1 seed, potentially going into the playoffs against a couple of other very good teams in the NFC, like this might be why they are a real contender, not just a team that's going to, get there and not really threaten the Super Bowl.
I will add to that stat a little bit. I mean, we use the QB comeback, fourth quarter comeback stat for quarterbacks. O'Connell has been a part of Matthew Stafford getting a ton. Stafford always had a ton, but he had a ton in 21 with the Rams. And then Cousins goes from one of the worst to one of the best for over a 2-year period, making fourth quarter comebacks. And now he's got Darnold doing it. It's the first time I think I've seen a coordinator, coach, whatever, really attached to that type of stat or trend, right? That it's usually quarterback driven and it travels with the quarterback. And now we're seeing, KOC maybe defy the odds here a little bit and him being the driver for a lot of that stuff. So from Seattle, I think from their perspective, another game where the game flow gets out away from them. They can't run the ball effectively. Geno Smith has to force some passes. It's very Baker Mayfield-ish, right? There's a roller coaster ride. There's a dime to DK Metcalf for a touchdown. There's a dime to Jackson Smith and Jigba for a touchdown. Always feels like a heavyweight fight with Geno Smith in Seattle because they put so much on him. Drop back pass game over and over and over again, and then they're down 3 with under a minute left, game-ending interception. Geno Smith, slight miscommunication there as well, but he's got to kind of force one under quick pressure once again from Minnesota. So everything kind of falling apart there when they just needed to drive down and at least get a game-tying field goal attempt.
Yeah, really impressive. There was a spin move right up the middle for the Vikings pass rush on that play that really put him under that quick pressure. I don't know what DK Metcalf is running on that play. I mean, he sort of gives up, I think, because it looks like, it's covered. There's a guy there that's going to be a problem, even if DK runs out 100% and puts himself in the right place. But yeah, bad play sort of institutionally from the Seahawks offense that basically cost them that game late on. Generally, it was a sort of standard Geno game where like a lot of it was really impressive. Some of those passes to JSN, to DK Metcalf were really, really impressive. A couple of mistakes in there. Dallas Turner's interception. Like, you remember you made this point at draft time, right? Like we were talking about the big three in terms of pass rushers, Dallas Turner, Jared Verse, Laiatu Latu. And for the Vikings in particular, with this Flores defense that, deploys players that go everywhere, whether it's rush the pass or drop into coverage, he's much more of an Andrew Van Ginkel type of player that can exist in coverage as well versus Jared Verse or Laiatu Latu. And here we go. Like he had a sack last week, right? And here he goes popping up in legitimate coverage, not just like,
legit off-ball linebacker snap for Dallas Turner here for the
not just like dropping off the line into a hook curl window and the ball's thrown right at him. Like he was in coverage legitimately as a linebacker and breaks on the ball and gets an interception. So, Turner's had a relatively underwhelming rookie season so far, but him coming on late in the year and into the playoffs would be a huge development for this Vikings team.
Oh, especially the way they're getting more and more comfortable just deploying a bunch of different defensive ends, rolling out a whole bunch of different packages and everything. So, yeah, that was an impressive play by Turner. So they've got the Packers and Lions left here.
Yep.
The Vikings. So it's not easy to get even to get to the Lions game, but they're hosting the Packers and then they play Detroit in Week 18, battling for that NFC North and, more importantly, the number 1 overall seed.
It's not easy, but critically, the Packers game is at home, and overall, they control their own destiny. I mean, they are the one team. I mean, Detroit does as well, I guess, but they control the 1 seed. Like, if the Vikings win out, they are the 1 seed. So it's 2 extremely tough division games. One of them is at home, and the other one is the game that would decide it, theoretically.
Anything else on this one?
No, other than, again, it feels uncomfortable every time they do it, but at some point, you probably have to credit the Vikings for this being a skill to win these one-score games and consistently get over the line. Thanks for watching all the way to the end of our video.
For more great content, click here to subscribe and here to watch another video. We'll see you again soon.